welcome back to Enka and welcome back to another episode with another movie review. What? Here we are, another movie review. We're quite excited because we never do movie reviews.
Yeah, it's so rare for us to do a movie review. You just never see that.
Nah, we watched this movie late
end of August.
August, yeah.
I think, yeah.
And if you're wondering which movie it is, we're talking about
Gran Turismo.
So exciting.
Very exciting.
You said it with so much passion.
I'm trying, okay?
But no, we're excited to be back with another episode. This one is not spooky. We've been watching a lot of really spooky movies
Yeah,
because
we're changing it up. We have some
currently,
action
as
drama.
we're recording it, is October.
Right.
Halloween is just next week.
So it makes sense that we've seen a lot of horror.
So
but
spooky
I'm
and
glad.
horror has been our tea for the past couple of days, month actually. So Gran Turismo, I mean, this movie came out of nowhere. I feel like I saw it on trailers on the theater maybe like a month before it came out. And I was like, oh, well, that looks interesting.
Right.
I've never played the game. With that said, it is based on a game, the game with the same name, Gran Turismo. And I believe it's actually pretty close to the real life story of this one kid that was a really big Gran Turismo player. So for those that don't know, Gran Turismo is a video game that simulates reality of car racing, and apparently is like super close to real life racing.
Right.
So this whole movie bases on this one kid that was really good at it, and Gran Turismo decided to do with Nissan a contest to see if they can put one of these kids on an actual racing car for professional racing. So this happened in real life, and the character
Based
that
on
we
true
see in the
story.
movie is actually the same character in real life, and the real life person actually helped in the movie, supported in the background with some of the stuff. So yeah, this movie seems like one of those like doesn't happen in real life, but no, that happened.
Definitely an underdog kind of tale, which we all know and love very much. I know I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh my goodness, I had so much fun. And I mean, we briefly talked about this when you were looking up the reviews, and I think I loved it more than many people did, which is interesting.
Yeah, I'll read some of the reviews I found. I think the main criticism I saw was that this is just an ad.
Oh.
That the movie itself felt like an ad for the game overall, and how the actual storyline just kind of fell flat compared to all the visuals that they were hyping up for driving.
I mean, I think the visuals were absolutely gorgeous.
No, they were.
Like, I'm not really sure how they did this. I think they had actual drivers driving these cars for some of these shots, and I really enjoyed the visual aspect of this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
In conjunction with the real with the SFX, VFX. Sorry. Because they had really good shots with like the cars deconstructing, or as he was playing his video game, the car coming around him and becoming a real car. I think it was a really clever way to do it, and a really good way to implement the video game into this movie. Because usually you think of like Ready Player One and Pixel and all of these movies that have tried to implement video games, and not every single movie is able to do it successfully. And my personal opinion, I think they accomplished that. I think they brought video games and movies together, not as in like Mario Bros. The movie, that is like a movie based on the video game. This one is more a video game within the movie. And I think they did that really well.
Yeah, definitely. There was quite a few people that we know that was in this movie, being Orlando Bloom, David Harbour. I wish I knew how to say this person's name. Jimon Honso. That is my best guess on how to pronounce his name. But I've seen him in other things before too. And then we have Archie Madikwe, which I'm hoping I'm saying correctly. He plays our main character, who's playing Jan Mardenborough. That is who this movie is based off of.
As a side note, if you have not seen Orlando Bloom in a while, you might not recognize him. I recognized him right away. But Caitlin was like, that's not Orlando Bloom.
It took me a while to realize that it was Orlando Bloom.
It does look like a bootlegged Orlando Bloom.
I know. And that's weird because it was really him the whole time.
I knew it was him. I had no doubt about it.
I just remember him from Lord of the Rings too much. And that was like 20 years ago.
I cannot even... When I think of Orlando Bloom, I do not think of Lord of the Rings. My mind goes immediately to Pirates of the Caribbean.
Of course. I can't blame you for that.
I even forget that he's in Lord of the Rings. He is Legolas.
Have you even really seen Lord of the Rings?
I know Legolas.
A little bit.
No, I know Legolas. This is just pop culture. Come on, Legolas. Come on. You gotta know Legolas.
Babe, last I checked, you did not watch all the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movies.
I know, but I know Legolas.
Okay.
Come on. It's like knowing Dumbledore. Potato.
Right, because that's equivalent.
It's like not knowing what's the name of the other the Dobby, but in Lord of the Rings. My precious.
You're talking about Gollum?
Gollum. It's like not
the
knowing
Dobby
Gollum.
of Lord of the Rings. You heard it here, folks.
That is how it was in my head, 24/7.
Seeing as you watched Harry Potter first, I don't blame you.
Well, even before then, it's not that it was the Dobby of Lord of the Rings, but they're interchangeable. They're like the same character. In my head, they were always the same character.
Should we do like a side-by-side visual of what they look like to see that you were wrong?
Similar. They are pretty similar.
How about we get back to the movie?
How about cars?
How about racing cars? Tell me a little bit more about what you thought about the actual story.
Okay.
I mean, you can talk about visuals all you want. Those are great.
Yeah.
The critics were concerned about the story.
I mean, there's only so much that you can do about the story. I mean, I don't know the real life happenings of this one character. What's his name?
Jan Mardenborough.
Jan. Mm-hmm. I don't know what actually went down with Jan. Now I know how much the story stuck with the real life experiences. But I think there's only so much that you can do when you want to make like almost like a documentary narrative.
Autobiography type thing.
Yeah. You don't want to deviate too much from what actually happened. So they didn't just, I don't think they came out with a story out of nowhere, just trying to put this one character and insert him into this one random story. Mm-hmm. And that's why you cannot really complain about this story.
Because it happened in real life. Maybe it's just how it was shown, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure, because, for example, in the movie, Jan has this one other racer in the competition that initially they seem like they're really big enemies.
Right.
And then at the end, they become colleagues and really good friends, pretty much. And then there's also this one guy on a golden car that is like a daddy's son. And just has all this money because his parents have the money.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm the best in the world, and if you're not gonna be with me, then you're really bad. I'm not sure if that necessarily happened, but if it didn't happen, it had to happen in this movie at least, because we couldn't just see the adversity of trying to become a car racer from a video game, but also the adversity of people that actually do not think that you can make it. Mm-hmm. And it cannot just be yourself thinking that you're not enough with the complex. What's it called?
Oh, like imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. It can not only be that. It has to be people in the exterior. I mean, his dad himself was like, why are you playing video games all day long? You should be a soccer player like your dad, and you should be a soccer player like your brother. Like, his dad was a professional soccer player in an actual real life team.
Right.
Which I'm also not sure if that happened, but I don't see why such a random fact would be made up.
It's also set in Wales, so if I have a feeling it's 100% true.
Yeah. I think it was Cardiff, the team, but I might be wrong. But yeah, like, his dad initially did not believe in him. And towards the end, the dad was like, I am so sorry that I made you go through all of the things that I made you go through and didn't believe in you. because I'm glad you believed in yourself, and I should have done the same thing.
I gotta say, I read this in a critique of the film where they're like, they make the dad out to be such like a bad guy for not believing in his son. But did his son ever do anything other than just play video games before he found out about the competition? Like maybe he was correct in being concerned that all his son did was play video games.
The thing with this, babe, is that this is not set in 1990. This is set in like what? Late 2000s.
Still, I'm just saying, if you have a friend who's obsessed with racing cars,
no, I know,
but never gets behind the wheel to actually race.
I know, but I don't necessarily think he was trying to go behind the wheel and become an actual car racer. If anything, in his head, because of the time that this was set on, I think he was trying to become a professional gamer and become like go on an E-team for Gran Turismo.
That wasn't exactly like shown though.
He was going to these parties with his parties. He was going to the arcade with his friends to play Gran Turismo all day long in actual competitions. Because as far as I know, they were actually competing.
Because it's like a live game, you can play with other players.
Yeah, but he was actively trying to be the best. So I don't think he was just all day playing video games, like, oh, Dad, whatever you say. No, he was actually trying to go for it. Like, he wasn't trying to be a car racer. He was trying to be a professional gamer. And I think that's what the dad didn't understand. Because many dads, and we've seen this in many other stories, dads usually think that video games is just a waste of time. Which many times, I would say 80% of the time, it might be. I experienced it myself. I could be doing many other things instead of be playing video games. But when there is someone that can become a millionaire from playing video games because of how good they are, then it is not just a waste of time. So I think that's where the dad is not really right for not believing in his son, because his son was actually actively telling him, this is what I want to do. Not just like wasting time.
I guess. I just don't think that depth of a video game conversation was shown at all. It just made it out because of how short that time period between the beginning of the movie and him getting picked up to be a part of the game was
about. Yeah, I can see that.
Like, you didn't get to see that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's really complicated, specifically because of the subject matter. People don't... It's still a conversation that most people are not ready to have. The video games can get you money.
Right.
Like, even still with big YouTubers... that all they do is playing video games or like streaming on Twitch and whatnot, and people still think like, oh, are you gonna get a real job? Even though they're making bank. So yeah, I think it's a difficult conversation right now, not because it's like, oh, it's so personal or no, it's just it's a new era with new ways to become successful, new ways to get income, and not everyone is with it. And I understand.
Yeah. I gotta say, I know you mentioned the other, like, villain of the story being that, like, other racer. I know this sounds really stupid, but it reminded me of Chuck from the first Cars movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like yes... Our guy, like our main villain guy, was actually like very good, and Chuck was just sort of felt like mediocre, and always in like the top 3, but never the first. This was
Chuck if he was actually the king.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I got out of it. So I was like,
is the king with Chuck's personality?
Yes, literally with Chuck's entire personality. So I thought that was kind of funny. If I remember correctly, I think they might have potentially based it off of like a real like opponent of his or whatever. I don't know for sure.
Mind you, these kids are young. Really funny. So
yeah, no, they're like really in their 20s.
I don't watch racing or anything like that, so I don't know how early someone can get into professional racing. But these seem like they were becoming professionals. But
just
not
like how Lightning McQueen was about to become a professional.
But that was the Piston Cup, babe. What else do you want? No, I think these kids were actually racing in lower end races, and then they went for the big old like 48 hours straight race.
Yeah, that really
was it 48 or 24?
I thought it was 24.
That was insane.
That'd be even crazier.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I know that's an actual thing.
I will watch that.
Anyway, should we get into some reviews?
Let's do it.
Okay. The first one I have here is from vulture.com.
A vulture?
Vulture.com.
As in like...
The bird.
The bird.
Caw. So, this is, the film insists, an example of a father not supporting his child, though until the competition materializes miraculously out of the blue, Jan has done nothing to pursue his professional dreams of becoming a race car driver except, well, playing Gran Turismo. And the worthiness of playing Gran Turismo is as much of a point as the film is able to summon. It may have a hard time figuring out what to do with Jan, but as a person with feelings and a future, Jan also just doesn't really matter. Both his rivalry with a Nepo baby driver played by Josa Stradowski and his romance with a girl from home, Maeve Cordier-Liley, barely register. The film has this dreamlike sheen, its characters always gleamingly lit regardless of their surroundings. It barely explores the difference between driving a car in a game and on a track, with time slipping by in a way that makes it unclear whether weeks, months, or years have passed.
That is true.
The line between a movie and an advertisement has gotten increasingly blurry. Movies used to be a way to sell toys, but now toys have become the sole basis of movies. But Gran Turismo, in its texturelessness, the lack of joy in its depictions of gameplay, its too sleek race footage and devoid of a main character, is particularly egregious in what it's doing. It doesn't even aim for the vindication fantasies of past gamer-turned-savior movies like The Last Starfighter or Pixels. It offers instead a numbing sort of reassurance that it's industrious to keep playing your game of choice, that someday it'll all be worthwhile, even if you can't see how yet.
Did he just praise Pixels?
If you want to interpret it like that, I think so, yeah.
People bashed Pixels.
I know.
I really liked it.
I've never seen it. So.
I really like it. But people bash Pixels for the longest time. And he just came out praising Pixels to bash on Gran Turismo. That's so funny.
I don't know.
No, but I can agree with some of the stuff. With the timeline specifically, you don't really know when they're already on the Nissan training camp. Mm-hmm. You don't know how long they've been there. And people are just exiting left and right. And you don't really know how long it's been. So that I can definitely understand. But then it goes back to the same point that I was saying earlier. I don't think he was trying to become a racer. Mm-hmm. It just happened. Right. I think it's just a really specific story.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a do this and then everything will come out right for you. Mm-hmm. Or like, follow my steps and you become a professional racer. No, this is a 1 in a million opportunity.
Lightning strike kind of
that
opportunity.
That happen in real life.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen to you.
It's not going to happen to anybody
else.
Yeah.
But it really happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like what they were saying about keep playing your game of preference and then one day it will happen for you. It probably won't. Mm-hmm. Unless you're actively trying to go for e-gaming, which, for example, nowadays, even overall college, less university, they now have an esports
after
team.
we leave, all the cool clubs start coming in.
So yeah, they actively have esports, and many colleges are doing this and actually competing. So it is an actual method of becoming successful nowadays. Mm-hmm. But this story, it's not about that specifically.
Right.
So the thing of like, do it and then you make it is not really there because this is so specific.
Exactly. I will comment on the fast pace the pace in which you can't quite tell when things are happening. I really enjoyed that.
I like that
personally.
Too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see him losing every single race over and over.
Yeah,
and over.
and with a racing movie, it kind of fit that it was also fast paced. Yeah. Because he's zooming through the track just as much as we're zooming through like his story, and that's what kept my interest. Maybe that's the Gen Z.
And I think it slowed down at the right time when he crashed, for example, and then he was just like, "I need to take a second. I need to step back and consider my life and what I actually want to do." Mm-hmm. So I think it slowed down at the right time. But come on, if you're watching this movie, we all know what we want. Mm-hmm. We want to see the moment in which he succeeds. Mm-hmm. We don't want
the dramatic racing shots.
Yeah, we don't want to be just like, oh, in the second part of this movie, like in Gran Turismo 2, you actually see how he wins a cup.
Right.
No, you want to see him succeed. Mm-hmm. So that's why it has to move so fast. Because in real life, it took a long time, and I'm not here for all that.
Right, literally. I don't want to have like a 3-hour epic of it, for sure.
Exactly.
So the other review I got is from the New York Times. says, since the late 1990s, the Gran Turismo racing games for PlayStation have brought in billions of dollars, rivaling the box office bounties of some movie franchises. It was only a matter of time before a movie offshoot arrived, following in the tracks of other live-action adaptations of PlayStation games, including last year's Uncharted. Gran Turismo, the movie, tells the true but unlikely story of Jan Mardenborough, a Gran Turismo maven who became a professional racer of actual cars on actual tracks. Blomkamp's, I believe that's the director's last name, handling of the track scenes lacks a compelling physicality or, if you'll pardon the term, drive. The editing and camera work could use a sharper sense of rhythm and velocity. That might not matter so much if it were paired with a strong screenplay, but the platitudinous script here lacks flair, though Jan does have the likable quirk of listening to Enya or Kenny G to chill out before races. Madekwe conveys a youthful vulnerability in an appealing air of quiet doggedness, even if he's mild-mannered as a performer here. The movie doesn't need to achieve the same levels of sensation as a wildly popular racing simulator, but it should convey excitement and dynamism in its own cinematic way. When the novelty of watching a gamer become a driver wears off, we're left with an adequate racing drama in a medium built for so much more.
Interesting. So, for example, I don't like racing games. I mean, I don't say that I don't like them. I don't gravitate towards them. I've played racing games once or twice, maybe. And this movie, to the point that they were saying, it actually brought me desire to play a racing game.
Really?
Yeah.
So the advertisement worked?
Oh my goodness. Yes, it did. It did. So I can definitely feel what they were saying about like it just highlighting the experience of the game itself. And I guess, yeah, it goes back to being an advertisement.
Yeah.
But like, what movie isn't? Every movie is an advertisement for something.
Yeah. And I guess, like, if you look at the screenplay, like, if you just, like, take away all of the racing stuff and just look at the screenplay as a whole, is not the most, like, unique premise. Underdog gets trained by a mentor. Like, what does it remind you of?
Well, other than Cars, it also reminds me, what's it called? Herbie? With Lindsay Lohan.
Really? It reminds me of that?
Was that Herbie?
I think so.
With the dog beetle?
Did you just say a dung beetle?
What's that car called?
I'm looking this up.
The beetle. Yeah. Isn't that a dung beetle?
That's not what that car is called. A Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah, but a beetle. Come on. A dung beetle. Anyways, yeah. So what's the movie called?
I'm finding it.
Herbie?
Herbie Fully Loaded.
I knew it. I'm so 2005. Good. But yeah, it reminds... Have you seen that movie ever?
No.
No?
I saw trailers for it on some of my old DVDs.
Oh my goodness.
But I never actually saw it.
I gotta show it to you. Yeah, it's kind of the similar vibe of... Oh my goodness. I don't really know. I haven't seen this movie in maybe a dozen years. But I think her dad died. And he wanted to be a racer, or he was a racer and died racing or something like that. And then she gets this magical car that speaks.
How does this remind you of Gran Turismo?
It's also an underdog experience. And she has this mentor and they're trying to make it together.
Right.
But yeah, just a side note.
You heard it here, folks. Anyways, yeah, I know this is someone's real life, but as far as like a screenplay goes, it followed like a generic path of like you meet them, you're excited about them, and then suddenly the accident, the thing that might make them turn back and refuse to continue, and then look at that, he overcame it and now he succeeds. Like, it's like the classic 3-act story structure.
There's I'm not mad about that though. Is that bad?
I know there's nothing wrong about it. I guess people just might be wanting more than that nowadays. I don't know. I don't think it's like a bad story.
So you're saying I want too little?
No.
No, I think that's the issue with real life stories. I mean, I didn't know what actually happened to this guy. I didn't know this guy had ever existed. I'm happy.
Never heard of him until the movie.
But it's an issue that you already know what's gonna happen. Like if you know of Jan before you watch this movie, you already know that he became a professional.
Right, exactly.
So the movie, he's gonna become a professional.
And you know that they're not making a movie off of someone that just failed.
Exactly.
So like,
it's a movie. They're gonna make it. Don't worry. But it also gives me. I had the same feeling with Oppenheimer. Like this movie is amazing, but the ending is not gonna be as good as I would like it to be because I already know the ending.
Yeah.
This is a movie.
Real person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Oppenheimer, it happened because it was a historical fact that I already knew about.
Yeah.
In this movie, it's because of what you said. They made a movie about this guy. He's not just gonna lose.
Right.
If you made a movie about him, it's because he made it.
And I think that's where then all the cool visual effects come in.
Exactly.
Where even if the story isn't the most like amazing compared to other like underdog stories or whatever, or if it's the exact same as other ones we've seen, the visuals is what helps separate it from it. Because again, like it felt like you were really seeing a video game. The visuals really captured your attention. There was only one moment I think where I was like, that is clearly fake. Yeah. But then other times like they really did their job trying to make sure that it blended seamlessly with real footage and just computer effects. You know what I mean?
And like, I guess it really resonates. This movie really resonates with me as well because I played soccer for the better half of my life.
Right.
And then at some point I just decided to not do it ananymore.
Pivot to
I was
something
almost
else.
a professional soccer player. And one could say I retired.
You hung up your what is it? Your pads, your knee pads.
My cleats.
You hung up your cleats and you never put them back on.
And this movie has at some point the same sentiment of like this guy's been playing this game for his entire life, and now you came into an accident. Are you willing to give it all up and then be the rest of your life? Like, what could have happened? I wonder. I know even though I decided to not play soccer anymore, and I'm really happy with my decision because of where I'm at right now. It's still a thought that comes to my head, like what could have happened if I continued in that path.
We joke a lot about if you would have been in the World Cup.
So, I mean, that moment in Jan's story resonated with me, but I understand that it's a really specific story for people that played sports, because sports and also music, for example, if you've been practicing the violin for 20 years and you want to become a professional, but all of a sudden you quit,
right?
Then you have the same feeling of like, I wonder what would have happened. But it might be too specific as well for a certain demographic.
Right.
Anyways, out of 5 clapping boards,
I'm giving it a 4.5.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was blown away by the visuals. I really enjoyed the pacing. Even if the story didn't resonate with me, the whole experience of watching it unfold is what resonated. Yeah. I thought that was like really cool overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.3.
Very specific.
Yeah, it feels right.
Any reasoning?
Well, no, I really enjoyed the movie. It's just that it's so complicated. I also want to give it a 4.6. I'm gonna give it a 4.5, just because I will consider this movie one of my favorites of the genre. I don't know what genre that will be, but
drama.
It's definitely not in the same category as, say, Babylon, but it's a really good movie. So, and I will watch it over and over. I think I really want to watch it again right now. So 4.5, I think it's valid. Well, thank you so much for being here one more week with us. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give us a comment and a nice little follow on any Spotify or Apple Podcast, wherever you want. You can find us. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find us on those podcasting platforms as "Cut" with an exclamation mark at the end. If you're listening to us right now, just know that you can also watch us record this podcast. We have the recording on our YouTube. You can find us at That Film Couple. We have a couple good fun stuff in there other than podcast. You can also find us on TikTok at That Film Couple. Also our beautiful faces. And we do a whole separate kind of content in there. And we also do more movie reviews in there, like short version and whatnot. You can follow us on Instagram at Cut the Podcast. And you can follow me as Sebi.mp4.
And you can follow me at caitlin.mp4.
Thank you so much for being here one more week, and we'll see you on the next one. And cut! Yeah, baby.
We got too many handles.